So according to federal prosecutors, Luigi Mangione decided that United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson deserved the death penalty and proceeded to execute him in cold blood. But back in the civilized world, where we have judges and juries and the administration of justice, it's all handled very differently. And tonight, Mr. Mangione should be grateful for that. In a New York federal courtroom today, Judge Margaret Garnett dismissed two of the most serious charges against Mangione, including the federal murder charge that allowed prosecutors to seek the death penalty. The federal judge determined that a stalking charge did not meet the legal definition of a crime of violence, which prosecutors needed in order to get to capital punishment. The judge acknowledged people might see her decision as, quote, tortured and strange, but she said she's following the law. Mangione's team and his supporters, however, were anything but tortured over the dismissal.
Just wanted to thank the court for this incredible decision. We want to thank this amazing legal team that we have here. It's really wonderful, all of them. Thank all the people who come out and stand here in the cold, and the people who can't come here, all the supporters. We get your letters, we get your emails, and we really appreciate all the support.
Those supporters were in the courtroom cheering when that judge made her ruling, and it's a big win for Mangione's defense team. But the same judge also delivered a big blow to their case. Their motion to suppress the evidence found in Mangione's backpack was denied. That means crucial items found on Mangione at the time of his arrest, like his manifesto detailing how he felt, quote, confident about what he was doing, all of it can be used against him. So, can Mangione's team convince a jury their client is innocent? Or has the toughest part of their job already been accomplished, keeping him off death row? Joining us now, former federal prosecutor Neama Rahmani and criminal defense attorney Brian Claypool. Great to have both legal minds here. Okay, Brian, you think this judge's decision today to toss Mangione's death penalty-related charges could be appealed and might even go all the way up to the Supreme Court. Why?
Yeah. Hey, Elizabeth, great to be with you. Yeah, look, knowing Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche, they are going to appeal this. And this is going to go to the United States Supreme Court. Why? Because there is no case law in New York exactly on point with what you described as a predicate crime. So the underlying crime has to be a violent crime. But there's no case law in New York that says, hey, stalking is not a violent crime. That's number one. Number two, the stalking is inextricably related to the actual murder. So if you go back, Elizabeth, to what's called legislative intent, for your viewers, anytime there's a law promulgated, there's usually a dialogue preceding the law. And it tells about what the intent of that law is.
Okay.
And I think that the circuit court and the Supreme Court are going to talk about that. And I don't see in a million years how this is not reversed, because the stalking, and you just showed it, the manifesto, that's probably part of his stalking. That is all leading up to an alleged cold-blooded execution. So in my opinion, they're 2-1, and I believe this judge made a catastrophic error in dismissing the death penalty.
Neama, do you agree? And I have to say, Neama, I'm surprised that when she said stalking is not violent, I think violence is implicit in stalking, isn't it?
Well, not necessarily. And look, I'm as pro-prosecution as they come, but if something isn't a categorical crime of violence, which means the crime can be committed without force or violence, you could potentially stalk someone without being violent. That's the issue in this case. Look, if this is a death penalty case, there are going to be mandatory appeals that happen.
Right.
So if you're the prosecution, you got to get this right. And let's talk about the prosecution. Why did they even file this case? They filed this case because New York doesn't have the death penalty, and they abolished it about 20 years ago. Typically, the DOJ does not do this. They don't file over the state unless there's a compelling federal interest that isn't vindicated in the state case. And I understand that people have strong views of the death penalty, but it just happened to happen in the state of New York. So why not let state prosecutors handle it like it's done in every other murder case in every courtroom in this country?
Yeah, you argued, Neama, that the DOJ was trying to jam a square peg into a round hole, that they were being overly aggressive and trying to account for the fact that New York State can't kill them, so we will try.
That's exactly what Pam Bondi is trying to do. If this wasn't such a high-profile political case that got everyone's attention, this wouldn't even be on the DOJ's radar. So I understand that people are upset. This was an execution. We all saw it with our own eyes. I agree with you, Elizabeth. But that's the law in the state of New York. If this were, Utah, it'd be a Tyler Robinson case. It would be a death penalty. If it were Brian Kohlberger, obviously he was able to avoid the death penalty in Idaho. But the state laws matter. And I think in New York, if you want to follow New York law, this is not a death penalty case.
Brian, what did you make of the fact that Mangione supporters were cheering in that courtroom and outside that courtroom when the judge made a ruling?
Yeah, before I answer that, Elizabeth, one quick comment. I just want to give you an example of where I think this law would apply. If somebody goes into a 7-Eleven or a convenience store and they shoplift, right? Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden they're confronted, then they pull out a gun and shoot 10 times and kill the clerk. In that case, I would agree that the death penalty doesn't apply because the shoplifting is not a violent crime. So I just wanted to give your viewers an example of that. But back to your question, we're seeing this happen even in the Tyler Robinson case as well, right? Where alleged killers are being glorified. You got GoFundMe pages set up. You've got people showing up at the courthouses, like in the Tyler Robinson case. Now, for example, Elizabeth, they're trying to keep out the actual video of the shooting, right? And here in the Mangione case, you've got, a 5-day hearing to try to keep out all of this damaging evidence that you alluded to, that in reality, in a real courtroom, there would have never been a 5-day hearing. There would have been a 5-minute hearing, and that evidence is coming in. So I'm seeing the criminal justice system take a shift toward glorifying these alleged killers, and it's leading, unfortunately, in my opinion, to what's called juror nullification.
Neama, if prosecutors lost today on the death penalty, they won on keeping that backpack evidence, and that evidence is crucial, that handwritten escape route, the pocket knife, the zip ties, the gun, and, of course, the manifesto.
Oh, I agree with that ruling, both in state and federal court. There was no way under the Fourth Amendment any judge was going to exclude it. Law enforcement had a right to arrest Mangione when they identified him based on the video and him being wanted in New York State. And then when he gave a fake name to law enforcement, that was another reason. So once you have a lawful arrest, you can search someone incident to arrest. That's anything within their wingspan, including that backpack. They could have inventoried it. I understand why the defense raised this argument, because if they get it knocked out, it would be a home run. But it really
I was going to say, do they have a case if they don't have that evidence? I mean, yes, they still do, but it's much harder.
Oh, no question. So they knew that motion had really no chance of success. I think the better one was the Fifth Amendment one to try to get some of the statements suppressed. But ultimately, this was a win. Elizabeth, let me tell you, even if Mangione is convicted and gets life, if you're a death penalty qualified lawyer and you save your client's life, you've won, even if they spend the rest of their life in prison.
All right, Neama, Brian, stick with us because I want you to weigh in on our next story.